This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to easily and efficiently build and manage your own website. Hi everyone, I'm FlygonHG, and this is the second video of my attempts at a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Renegade Platinum. If you haven't seen my first video, which detailed my very first attempt, check that out first. It'll tell you everything you need to know about this ROM hack, my specific rule set, and how I found myself back at square one. As I said at the end of my last video, I was really surprised by how quickly I was ready to start attempt 2. Part of it was probably because I had started attempt 1 so long ago, and I knew that with all the knowledge that I had accrued throughout that first attempt, I would be able to play the early game of attempt 2 much better. So, let the games begin. Are you ready for it? Right away, I make a fairly major change to what I did in attempt 1. Instead of picking Turtwig, I pick Chimchar. This means that my rival, still named after one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, will have a different team, with the most notable difference being that he will have an Empoleon instead of an Infernape. A Water-Steel type will be much better for that pesky 12v12 atop of Spear Pillar. I really need Famine to do better this time, assuming I get there. I decide to soft reset on my starter selection here until I get a Chimchar that has Iron Fist instead of Blaze, because why not? It's the very beginning of the game, so I might as well. Maybe this means that this technically isn't attempt 2, but whatever. Here's our Chimchar, who I named Tabasco. He has a modest nature in addition to his Iron Fist ability, which is decent since Infernape can be both a physical and a special attacker. I get the gift EV from Twinleaf Town and again name him Eclair, who has a careful nature, which is perfect for an Umbreon. And then I get to pick my second of the Sinnoh starters. I go with Turtwig, who I give the new nickname Broccoli, and she has shell armor, meaning that this 22.5 pound jolly little turtle cannot be crit. So far, the first 3 encounters of the game have been the exact same 3 Pokemon as in attempt 1, though I obviously switched the order of Chimchar and Turtwig. But from here, things become drastically different. From Lake Verity, I catch a Starly named Hummus. He has a horrendous calm nature, but at the very least this means that I am again guaranteed to get Chansey when the time comes. Then, on Route 202, instead of a Growlithe, I get a Burmy named Avocado. This Pokemon can have battle armor in this game, so Shed Skin is a bit disappointing, as is getting a Burmy in general, but since she's female, I'll be able to evolve Avocado into Trash Cloak Wormadam, which means that at the very least I have a Steel type. And Wormadam was buffed in this game, so she's not a terrible encounter. Then it's off to the Jubilife Trainer School to hatch my baby Pokemon from an egg. This time, the egg hatches into an Azurill, who has huge power, so that's actually really solid. Welcome to the team, Blueberry. Next up, I head to Route 218 to get my first fishing encounter. It's gonna be either Finneon or Magikarp. Or Staryu. Staryu would be sick if we just randomly got Staryu here. But I don't feel like that's gonna happen. Well, that's pretty cool. I named the Staryu Starburst, and suddenly the team is already looking pretty good. For my choice of Kanto starter, I go with Squirtle, since Blastoise can have the ability Drizzle, which would obviously be great. But Blue Cheese has Torrent, so he'll likely spend most of his life in the box. Regardless, my team is more than strong enough to completely devastate Famine on Route 203. Starburst takes out Famine Starly with 2 Water Pulses, I get off a Charm on his Munchlax with Blueberry, who has already Friendship evolved into Marill, and then I switch to Broccoli. Since she can't be crit, now that Munchlax has an attack drop, I can safely set up a few curses and then kill him with a couple of Razor Leafs. Famine's Piplup also can't do much damage, even with Peck, so a single Razor Leaf kills him as well, getting us an easy deathless victory against Famine. In attempt 1, I had my first death here, so it's a pretty great feeling to have this go so well on attempt 2. So now, it's just a bunch more encounters. On Route 203, I catch a Lotad named Pineapple. Then on Route 204, I repel Manip to try to increase my chances of getting a Ralts, but I end up with a Bellsprout instead. I name him Taco. Get it? Taco Bellsprout? Like the restaurant? You know, the Mexican restaurant that serves tacos, which is what I named Bellsprout. Taco Bell! In Ravage Path, I catch a Zubat, who I again named Cake Batter. He has a calm nature, which is not great, but oh well. The minus attack nature shouldn't be that big of a deal, and plus special defense isn't the worst thing in the world. Getting a Zubat on Ravage Path is great because it increases my odds of getting a Riolu in Orberg Gate. But first I get the Beldum from Steven, who I again named Jawbreaker. And I again get a Machop from Route 207, though this time I decide to name him the more appropriate Protein. Then it's off to Oreburgh Gate where I find a Geodude who I name Poprox. Unfortunately, this means no Aeron, but with the Geodude dupe, the chance of getting Riolu in Oreburgh Gate has now shot up to 50%. And luckily, I win that coin flip. I also win a second coin flip and Rigatoni has the ability Steadfast, which will turn into adaptability when he evolves into Lucario, which can happen pretty much immediately since he evolves via friendship. Adaptability Lucario is disgusting, because his stab moves now deal double damage instead of getting the standard 1.5 boost, which is a very large increase in power. How large? Well, large enough for Rigatoni to be able to one-shot every single one of Roark's defensive rock types with a combination of Brick Break and Low Kick. I really don't know why Drayano gave Lucario adaptability, but at this specific moment in time, I gotta say, it was a brilliant decision. So just like that, we've gotten the very first gym badge of Attempt 2. That easy victory puts me well ahead of schedule, meaning that I have plenty of time to talk to you about this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an online platform that helps you build and manage your own website, whether that's an online store for your business or a personal blog for your thoughts. Setting up a website used to be really tedious and take a painfully long time, but with their all-in-one platform, Squarespace streamlines the whole process, making it super simple to quickly design polished websites using their customizable templates. Even I, the guy who lost a Pokemon to Byron in Attempt 1, was able to use Squarespace to create PoppyHG.com, the world's premier online destination for images of my corgi puppy Poppy. Squarespace also has a ton of other really useful features, like analytic information about the traffic of your website, the ability to add and play embedded videos directly on your website, and Squarespace member areas, which can be used to connect with audiences and create exclusive members-only content. So if you're looking to start a website for your business or hobby, then you should absolutely check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, you can use my custom link to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The links are in the description below. Thanks so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. In Floroma Town, I get my Johto starter. Drxx and Moxi, two ROM hack Nuzlockers that have been giving me recommendations throughout this playthrough, told me that Typhlosion is a phenomenal Pokemon in Renegade Platinum, since it can get access to Eruption and can also get access to adaptability. So I try my luck with Cyndaquil, but Tortilla has Blaze. Bummer. Next up, I head to Valley Windworks and again find a Drifloon. That's pretty surprising given that Drifloon is only a 10% encounter, but I'm certainly not complaining that Grape is back on the team. I also fish on Route 205 and again get a Magikarp who I name Fish. Hopefully this one sticks around a little longer. Next up is the first fight against Commander Mars. Her Purugly is pretty tough this early in the game, but Rigatoni should be able to handle her just fine. She leads with a Zubat though, so I lead with Jawbreaker. A Wing Attack hits us for a bit of damage, and then Zen Headbutt connects for the one-shot. Purugly comes out second, so I switch to Rigatoni on a Fake Out. Then we get hit by a Hypnosis, which gets healed by a held Chesto Berry, letting Rigatoni one-shot Purugly with a Brick Break. Next is Yanma, so I go out to Blueberry as Yanma tries to Detect. She then uses Detect on the next turn, so Yanma does get off a second speed boost, but it doesn't matter much since Blueberry is obviously always getting outsped here. On the next turn, Blueberry takes 20% from Sonic Boom and then hits Yanma with a hard Body Slam. Leftovers recovers some HP as Yanma gets another speed boost. Then, Blueberry tanks one more Sonic Boom before knocking out the Speedy Pest with a second Body Slam. Last for Mars is Bronzor, so I stay in and hit a soft Aqua Jet as Bronzor retaliates with an extra sensory. I'm risking a crit now by staying in, so I just switch to Broccoli, who shrugs off an attack and gains some HP back with leftovers. Then a critical hit bite kills Bronzor and wins us the battle. So far, things have felt very smooth on this attempt. There's a bunch more encounters before Gardenia here. A Poliwag named Bubblegum from Eterna City that again has Water Absorb, a Tailo named Porridge from Eterna Forest, who has Scrappy instead of Guts, making her significantly worse, and a Feebas from Mount Coronet, again named Unagi. Then, I head to Route 211, where I decide to repel Manip at level 18 so that I can have a 50% chance of getting Swablu and a 50% chance of getting Meditite, both of which would be okay encounters. Here's what happens. So right now, by using a Pokemon that's at the front of our party that's level 18, I f***ed up. Wait, what? Well, we already have Machop, so that's good, but this is just a lie now. This is Route 211 East. Swablu Meditite at level 18.
Maybe it means Swablu Machop? Well, that works.
Turns out, I guess I don't know the difference between East and West. Well, my stupidity pays off immensely because Bagon is obviously a phenomenal Pokemon. I mean, Bagon isn't, but in 32 levels, once little Bagel learns to fly, I'll be sitting pretty with a big, fat Salamence. I am the poster child for failing upwards. My last encounter before Gardenia is a Swinub from Route 216, who I name Milkshake. Milkshake also has a calm nature. I'm not sure why so many of my Pokemon have calm natures, but it'd be pretty cool if it wasn't exclusively physical attackers. Regardless, a calm Swinub is better than accidentally running from a Smoochum, so I'd say I'm still doing much better than in Attempt 1. So, after some leveling up, it's time to take on Gardenia for badge number 2. She leads with Blossom, and I lead with Tabasco. I start with a Fake Out for some chip damage, which flinches Blossom. Then I go for a Taunt to stop Blossom from using Stun Spore. This lets me hit her with a Flame Wheel, which burns, as she retaliates with the Dazzling Gleam. The burn brings Blossom into the red, so on the next turn Gardenia heals. But 2 more Flame Wheels are enough to take her out, getting Tabasco to level 27, where he learns Flamethrower. Remember, the level cap ends at the start of the battle, so edging my Pokemon to the next level only makes sense. Roserade comes out second and threatens with Extra Sensory, so I switch to Avocado, who has evolved into Trash Cloak Wormadam. She takes very little damage from Roserade, especially with Leftovers Recovery. She also learns Protect by level up, so she can Protect stall for Leftovers Recovery well before we get access to the TM for Protect. On the next turn, after tanking another Extra Sensory, I go for a Bug Bite, which lets Avocado eat Roserade's held Citrus Berry and get back to full HP. Then it's just a few turns of tanking attacks from Roserade while slowly whittling away at her HP with Bug Buzz, and protecting for passive recovery in case of a few critical hits. Eventually, Roserade goes down, and our Bagworm is victorious. Cherrim is third. She goes for a Sunny Day, which causes her to change forms, and then Avocado nails her with a strong Bug Buzz. A Protect on the next turn reveals that Cherrim is going for Weather Ball, which becomes a Fire-type move in the Sun. In response, I make my first major misplay of the run. I switch to Tabasco to tank a Weather Ball. My calc tells me that I'll survive even a critical hit here, but I forgot that the damage calculator I use doesn't factor in the fact that Weather Ball's base power increases from 50 to 100 in the Sun. So I was absolutely dead to a crit. Though fortunately I'm unpunished and Tabasco lives to hit Cherrim with a Fake Out for some chip, and then kill her with a priority Mach Punch. This brings in Grotle, so it's perfectly safe to switch to Cake Batter on a Seed Bomb and then taunt the turtle so that he can't use Leech Seed. Then I can just take him out with a few Leech Lives, which also brings Cake Batter back to full HP. So 5th is Tangela. I don't have Roselia this time around, but I do have Avocado, who dodges a Stun Spore on the switch. A Protect reveals that Tangela is going for Ancient Power, so once again I'm hoping that she doesn't get the Omni Boost. The damage rolls of Ancient Power and Shockwave overlap though, so on the next turn Tangela just goes for Shockwave, which does nothing to Avocado, and then a Bug Buzz one-shots her in return. So last is Breloom. I Protect to see what she's going for and to restore some HP. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee that she'll go for Spore again. I decide to switch to Taco the Victory Bell, who tanks a Mach Punch. Ideally, Breloom spores Taco so that I can get a safe switch into Cake Batter, but he just goes for another Mach Punch. Oh, and before you write a comment about it, grass types are not immune to Spore in this game. Anyways, Taco's now at risk to a critical hit Mach Punch here, so I gotta switch to Cake Batter and just hope that Breloom doesn't go for Spore. Thankfully she doesn't, so a Wing Attack on the next turn cleanly knocks out the little Mushroom Warrior, winning us the 2nd Gym Badge. Next up is the most challenging obstacle of the run so far. This random-ass Team Galactic grunt that killed my Gyarados in Attempt 1 with his freaking Ladian. I learned my lesson though. 85% accurate bounces from Gyarados are out, a perfectly accurate Aerial Ace from Porridge is in. No longer will I be relying on inaccurate moves with Gyarados. I can assure you that. I hope you rot in hell, Ladian. Here I also catch the static Rotom in Old Chateau. This time I name them Hot Pocket. They have an adamant nature, which is definitely the worst possible nature for Rotom. Oh well. Jupiter is another deathless fight, so we can move on to the most important encounter of the run so far, the Gligar on Route 206. I would take a dozen Pokemon with terrible natures if it meant that I could get Glysaur with Poison Heal again. But no dice. Chorizo 2 also has a rash nature, so that's another terrible nature. I know I didn't fully show it in the previous video, but Chorizo with Poison Heal was an incredible carry in Attempt 1, and easily one of the top 3 most used Pokemon. Without Poison Heal, Glysaur is just so much worse, and the game becomes much harder. To the point where I actually considered just resetting the run right here, but that would have obviously been a massive overreaction. I was pretty sour about a string of non-optimal encounters, what with Scrappy Swellow, Calm Swinub, Adamant Rotom, and now Hypercutter Gligar, but in the grand scheme of things, and with some hindsight, I've had some pretty stellar encounters as well. Shell Armor Jolly Turtwig, Adaptability Hasty Lucario, and Naive Bagon are all phenomenal, so I think the positives largely outweigh the negatives. But I'm only human, so you better believe that I make a big stink about every single bad-natured Pokemon that comes my way from here on out. Like the Shieldon I get as my fossil encounter. I name him Schnitzel, which I definitely spelled wrong on purpose, and he has a mild nature. Terrible nature. But Bastiodon is really solid in this game as a wall. Schnitzel will serve as sort of a Salt 2.0. Not nearly as powerful as Aggron, but he has a ton of special defense, making him a much more versatile wall and stall type Pokemon. Anyways, here I again get a Togepi named Omelette from Cynthia. On Route 208, I go for a Honey Tree encounter and catch a Tangela named Udon. This is actually a pretty great encounter, and obviously miles better than Jellybean the Skitty from Attempt 1. Along the way, I pretty handily take care of Mira and Dawn, so next is the Aeron Run Ender. I don't have an Arcanine this attempt, but I can still use his lead Dustox to pretty easily set up a sweep with Broccoli, who has conveniently evolved into Torterra, right at Aeron's soft level cap. There's no point in going through this whole thing again, as it's largely similar to what happened in Attempt 1. Set up Stealth Rocks with Schnitzel, who has evolved into Bastiodon, lock Dustox into Protect with Encore from Omelette, who has evolved into Togetic, and then set up a few Swords Dances and a Rock Polish with Broccoli so that he can outspeed and one-shot all of Aeron's Pokemon with Return and Earthquake after some Stealth Rock damage. So, once again, Aeron is not too much of a problem. This now gets us to the fight against Fantina, and now that I do have a Shell Armor Torterra, I can fully enact the Captivate Baton Pass strategy created by Drew. Again, check Drew out, he's phenomenal at these games, and his videos deserve more love. As a reminder, this strategy involves captivating Fantina's lead Drifblim with a male Umbreon until she baton passes the special attack drops to her Mismagius. From there, you can safely switch to Shell Armor Torterra and set up, since Mismagius can't crit through the special attack drops. It's a pretty sweet strategy for an otherwise very difficult gym battle. Unfortunately, there is a slight wrinkle in this. Because I used Broccoli for Aeron, her only attacking moves are Return and Earthquake, neither of which can hit Mismagius. And since we don't have access to the move relearner yet, the only useful move I can teach Broccoli is Bullet Seed via TM, which as you might know has a 25 base power and hits anywhere from 2 to 5 times. A few low rolls could be bad here. Fortunately, Broccoli will learn Crunch at level 34, so by edging her to almost level 34 before the fight, she'll get Crunch for the rest of Fantina's fight after Mismagius goes down. Eclair is able to successfully captivate Drifblim, so Mismagius is sitting pretty at -6 special attack. So when I switch to Broccoli, she only takes a whopping 12 damage. Then it's setup time. Thankfully, I only need 1 Swords Dance and 1 Rock Polish, since Broccoli actually has a perfect attack IV and a plus speed nature, though the latter is somewhat offset by her speed IV of 2. Regardless, additional setup here really isn't worth it because Mismagius could start getting special defense drops with Shadow Ball. So I just go for a Bullet Seed, though because of Mismagius' Citrus Berry, even 3 hits from Bullet Seed isn't enough for the kill. Then Fantina heals and Broccoli gets a pretty unfortunate 2-hit Bullet Seed. Why is that so unfortunate? Well, because Fantina switches to Gengar here, who resists Bullet Seed, and has Levitate. Since Gengar can't crit, she actually can't kill us here, but she does have Will-O-Wisp. So, if Broccoli gets hit by another 2-hit Bullet Seed and she gets burned, then there's no sweeping potential. I decide to risk it though. But then Fantina just switches again. This time to Drifblim, who handily tanks a 3-hit Bullet Seed. This actually ends up being kind of okay though, because I can just switch back to Eclair and redo the Captivate strats. But I think it's funny that I still found a way to mess up Drew's borderline foolproof strategy. While Eclair and Broccoli are doing their thing here though, it might be a good time to talk about why Fantina decided to switch. Or at least why I think the AI decided to switch. In this game, it appears that the AI will only switch out their Pokemon after you use a move that one of their Pokemon in the back resists. This is why Miss Magius switched to Gengar and then Drifblim only after Broccoli used Bullet Seed. It also explains the one instance of AI switching that we saw in Attempt 1 where Famine switched out his Munchlax into Chimchar after getting hit by a Razor Leaf. This obviously doesn't always happen though. It seems like this criteria just causes the switch to become possible. That's just my theory though. As far as I know, AI switch logic in most Pokemon games hasn't really been super well researched, so the information out there is largely just based on empirical evidence. There's also a ton of misinformation about AI logic out there, especially in YouTube comment sections, so just be careful. Regardless, it is clear that if you can't one-shot an enemy Pokemon, you do have to have a plan for if the AI decides to switch. Anywho, the second Captivate strategy does go off flawlessly, so Broccoli is able to sweep through Fantina's team of ghosts and win us the third gym badge deathless. This now gets us to the side story of Team Galactic taking over the Pokemon Mansion, which culminates in a multi-battle with Famine against Commander Saturn and a potentially hypnotized Mr. Backlot. Last time, Famine went out of his way to throw this battle for us, so I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't pretty nervous about this fight. Saturn and Backlot again lead with Bronzong and Wigglytuff. I lead with Schnitzel, and Famine leads with Staravia. Famine again starts by using a very useless double team as his Staravia just gets killed by Thunderbolt from Wigglytuff. Bronzong then outspeeds Schnitzel and hits him with a Confuse Ray, though a Lumberry snaps him out of it, letting him hit a pretty weak Iron Head into Wigglytuff, which also triggers Cute Charm. Not an amazing start. Famine brings in Heracross next though, who hits Wigglytuff with a Brick Break that leaves her with a Sliver. Then Wigglytuff hits Schnitzel with a weak Thunderbolt, and Bronzong continues to bully Schnitzel with status moves by hitting him with a Hypnosis. So it's nap time for our prehistoric little fella. Heracross kills Wigglytuff with a Brick Break on the next turn, as Bronzong brings him down to a Sliver with a Zen Headbutt, and Schnitzel continues to snooze. Espeon comes in second for Mr. Backlot. So Heracross is definitely dead. I switch to Avocado, as Espeon does indeed melt Heracross's mind with a Psychic. Avocado then shrugs off a Zen Headbutt as Leftovers heals a bit of damage. Snorlax comes out third for Berry. So on the next turn, I go for a Protect, hoping for this Lug to do some big damage. Espeon also uses Protect, but Famine is playing 4D chess and predicts it by setting up an Amnesia. On the next turn, Espeon hits Avocado with a pretty hard Power Gem, but then we hit him with a pretty hard Bug Bite in return, which lets Avocado eat Espeon's Citrus Berry and get back to almost full HP. Snorlax just uses Amnesia again, which is pretty annoying, but whatever. Trust the process. Leftovers on Snorlax helps him mostly shrug off Zen Headbutt from Bronzong. Then it's another turn to Protect from Avocado and Espeon, so it's basically a dead turn as Bronzong and Snorlax both target into the Protects, though the added recovery from Leftovers on both of our Pokemon is always welcome. Espeon then goes for a double Protect, but it fails. I also go for a double Protect, which also fails. So, after Bronzong hits Avocado with a Confuse Ray, Snorlax finishes off Espeon with a Body Slam. Last for Mr. Backlot is Raichu, so I switch to Udon, who has evolved into a Tangrowth. Raichu then uses Fake Out to flinch Snorlax as Bronzong misses a Zen Headbutt. All around, a nothing turn. But now Raichu goes for a Teeter Dance, so everyone gets confused. Udon hurts himself in confusion, but Snorlax is clutch and breaks through to hit Raichu with a Body Slam, though that does activate Static. Bronzong also hits through confusion, so Udon takes a bit of damage from a Zen Headbutt. So I switch to Eclair as Raichu goes for a Thunderbolt that does decent damage, and Bronzong snaps out of confusion and fires off a Zen Headbutt into Snorlax. Snorlax then hits through confusion and paralysis to kill Raichu with a Body Slam. What an animal. That takes care of Mr. Backlot, meaning that now it's a 2v1. On the next turn, I go for a Wish with Eclair as Snorlax tanks another Zen Headbutt, snaps out of confusion, and then hits Bronzong with a Yawn. Then Eclair hits Bronzong with a very strong Crunch, Snorlax tanks another Zen Headbutt, avoids the full paralysis yet again, and hits Bronzong with a Body Slam. Not a lot of damage, obviously, but I'm just impressed that Famine has managed to be this useful. A Crunch finishes off Bronzong on the next turn. Toxicroak is second for Saturn, so I switch to Cake Batter as the Nasty Frog finally takes out Famine's Legend with a Drain Punch. Prinplup comes in next. Cake Batter hits Toxicroak with an Aerial Ace, she hits Prinplup with a Poison Jab, which activates a Citrus Berry, and then he hits Toxicroak with an Icy Wind. So on the next turn, a second Aerial Ace finishes off Toxicroak. Thanks for being the punching bag on that one, Famine. Last is Octillery with Ice Beam, so I switch to Unagi as Prinplup does big damage with Grass Knot and then tanks a Signal Beam. So, with the double up of Dazzling Gleam from Unagi and another Grass Knot from Prinplup on the next turn, Octillery falls and we win the battle, meaning that Attempt 2 remains deathless. Attempt 1 had 4 deaths at this point, so even without something as good as Poison Heal Glysaur, Attempt 2 is looking really promising. And with the Pokemon Mansion cleared, I can now get Chansey, who I again name Egg. Her plus special defense nature is actually pretty solid, though Nature Cure would be way more useful than Serene Grace. Can't complain though. There are a few more encounters that I pick up along the way to Veilstone City, but I'll only be touching on the ones that are notable. Like this Unknown from Salacian Ruins. Very useful, they'll be on my Elite Four team for sure. You know, assuming I don't wipe before then. Despite a very RNG heavy fight on both sides against Ace Trainer Dennis's Gyarados, I make it to Veilstone in one piece, meaning that it's time to fight Maylene. Though before that, I do head to Route 214 and catch a Houndour which has Flash Fire instead of Intimidate. The perfect successor to Attempt 1 Hot Dog. Anyways, now it's time to fight Maylene. I just need to quickly clear through her gym trainers.
Scary.
Oh no! What? No!
I deserve that. How did you not kill Hitmonchan? He was level 37 and had a choice band. I'm not even upset at myself for that. That's dumb. Why are you so bad? Also, this shouldn't kill. Why did this kill my Crobat? Did it crit? It crit? That's so dumb. That is so... Like... Whatever. God, I'm so pissed. Good. I'm so mad right now. It's my fault. I shouldn't get tilted here.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to blame that on the crit, or the fact that Cake Batter has a minus attack nature, and both of those are unfortunate, but I do come to the very obvious conclusion that this is completely my fault. I was rushing, I was reckless, and that was an unnecessary risk, so I was punished very heavily. Crobat is a phenomenal Pokemon, so that is a really tough loss, but there's nothing to do other than move on, try not to get tilted, and avenge our dearly departed Cake Batter. Rest well. So, time for Maylene. Without Poison Heal, it's a bit harder to set up a sweep with Chorizo, but I decide to go that route anyways, since it seems like my best option. Maylene is just really scary, so setting up, in my eyes, is the best and safest plan. She leads with Medicham, and I lead with Omelette, who has evolved into Togekiss. After tanking some chip damage with Fake Out, a Choice Scarf ensures that we outspeed and one-shot Medicham with a Moonblast. This brings in Toxicroak, much like in Attempt 1, though instead of using Jawbreaker, I'm using Avocado. She gets a safe switch into a Poison Jab. Then, after tanking a very hard Drain Punch, I set up a Stealth Rock. From here, I protect Stall a bit to gain some HP back. I can also switch back to Omelette on Drain Punches and then bring Avocado back in to slowly gain even more HP back with leftovers. We're also pretty successfully stalling Toxicroak out of Drain Punches, which is why it's kinda dumb that I decide to switch to Fish to get off and Intimidate, because it risks a crit for basically no reason, which Toxicroak does indeed get off. So Fish loses a huge chunk of his health. That shouldn't be a big deal though, because we really shouldn't be needing him. After a few more turns of Protect, Avocado is safe to hit Toxicroak with a Psychic. Toxicroak hits her with a Sucker Punch for some reason, so she doesn't take too much damage, and then Psychic leaves Toxicroak with a Sliver. This causes Maylene to heal. It would have been safe to kill her with a Psychic because we got the special defense drop there, but I wasn't totally sure that she'd heal here, so I didn't want to risk it. It doesn't matter much though. I can just switch between Omelette and Avocado until Toxicroak runs out of Drain Punch PP. Once she does run out of PP, she just goes for Ice Punch, which fortunately doesn't freeze, and then a Psychic finishes off Toxicroak. This sets us up well, because Avocado baits out Infernape to use a Fire-type move, meaning that it is safe to switch to Bubblegum, who I evolved into Politoed. His Drizzle ability sets up Permanent Rain, meaning that Infernape's Fire Punch now does very little damage. Bubblegum baits out Close Combat, which now gets me a relatively safe switch to Chorizo. Thanks to the rain, Infernape won't go for Fire Punch. Chorizo is immune to Thunder Punch, obviously, so Infernape's only other moves are Rock Slide and Close Combat. My calcs tell me that Infernape should basically always go for Close Combat here. because the highest high roll of Rock Slide and the lowest low roll of Close Combat do the exact same damage. So, my understanding of how damage rolls work is that the only way that Infernape would use Rock Slide is if he got the high roll Rock Slide, the low roll Close Combat, and then randomly chose Rock Slide instead of Close Combat, which means that Infernape should go for Rock Slide in this situation about 0.78% of the time. Well, apparently this turn is that 0.78% of the time. Infernape also gets a critical hit, and a flinch, so make that 0.015% of the time. This is pretty unfortunate, and very bad, because Chorizo didn't get off a roost, and will now die to even a non-critical hit Close Combat. It's quite possible that that just lost me the game. Admittedly, if a single critical hit flinch is enough to ruin a strategy, then it's not a very good strategy. But again, I was very confident that Infernape would just not go for Rock Slide there. Let's see if I can salvage this though. The issue is that if I just kill this Infernape, one of Maylene's other Pokemon will come in, and I don't have safe checks into them without doing a bit of setup beforehand. But with a bit of luck, maybe I can still pull off a setup sweep here, though it will require dodging some crits. Playing around crits is no longer a luxury I can afford. I start by switching to Fish to get off an Intimidate. Then Infernape just uses Mach Punch, which means if I had just stayed in, I would have survived and been able to get off a roost. I actually didn't realize this until writing this script, but Infernape going for Mach Punch here seems to suggest that he is going for random moves. This might be because of the rain having the damage from Fire Punch, which would otherwise be Infernape's strongest move. If you remember from the fight against Crasher Wake in Attempt 1, I explained that AI goes for random moves if it cannot use the most optimal move. In that case, it was because Ludicolo ran out of Hydro Pump PP. But maybe a similar logic holds true for when the most optimal move becomes non-optimal as a result of weather. I truly have no idea, I'm just spitballing here. What's even weirder is that in this instance, the random move choice seems to ignore the fact that Close Combat is a guaranteed kill. Very bizarre. Maybe I'm just looking for reason in an unreasonable world. Anyways, let's go back to my slow demise. Regardless of weather, Fish always baits a Rock Slide here, so I decide to switch to Avocado, who shrugs it off reasonably well. I decide to protect here because we might as well. Free leftovers recovery. We're now baiting Fire Punch, so it's back to Fish for another Intimidate and to tank that Fire Punch, which also crits. This actually really sucks because the plan was to stay in on the next turn, survive a non-critical hit Rock Slide from -2 Infernape, and then get off a Thunder Wave so that Chorizo outspeeds Infernape. But because of that crit, Fish dies to a non-critical hit Rock Slide as well, meaning that now I just need to switch directly into Chorizo. With the leftovers recovery between turns, we should survive 2 attacks from -2 Infernape here, as long as he doesn't crit.
Okay, so we have to go to Glysaur here. If it crits here, we lose. It's just a wipe. Could have missed, but...
Okay, well that's obviously not great, but I'm not giving up yet. I bring in Fish and get off a third Intimidate. Call me lucky, but Infernape manages to not get a third critical hit in a row, letting Fish survive a Rock Slide and set up a Dragon Dance. And the leftovers recovery here actually means that Infernape is not able to kill Fish with a priority Mach Punch. So, a Crunch does take out Infernape here. And now we actually have a +1 attack, +1 speed Gyarados in the rain. Meaning that Fish can actually one-shot the rest of Maylene's team with Aqua Tail. You might be asking, why the hell did I not just set up with Fish in the first place? Well, this is why.
Did I actually win this if I don't miss? Yeah. We don't miss.
But it's still not time to give up, no matter how badly I want to. I bring in Omelette thinking that I'll just kill Maylene's Gallade with Moonblast, but once he's in, I see another potential out. I switch to Avocado as Gallade sets up a light screen. Then I switch back to Omelette as Gallade goes for a Reflect. Then, with a Choice Scarf, I Encore Gallade into using Reflect. This lets me switch to Grape the Driftblim as Gallade just keeps clicking Reflect. So I can now start setting up a few stockpiles to raise Grape's defenses. I'm able to get all 3 up before Gallade's Encore ends. But now it's time to start dodging some critical hits. I go for an Air Slash, desperately hoping for a flinch. Since Gallade sets up Light Screen, it doesn't do much, and also doesn't get the flinch, so Gallade hits a Zen Headbutt that thankfully doesn't crit. But now that Light Screen wears off, we can kill him with a Shadow Ball. So, last is Maylene's terrifying Lucario. If we dodge a few crits, we might somehow actually still win this one. He goes for a Flash Cannon, which doesn't crit, and then Grape hits a Shadow Ball that does about 50%, but gets the special defense drop, meaning that one more should kill him. Unfortunately, had Lucario done literally one more HP of damage, that would have activated Grape's Citrus Berry, which would have activated her Unburden, giving her enough speed to outspeed Lucario and guarantee the win. But because that did not happen, we need to dodge one more crit. And we do, meaning that somehow I win the battle and get the 4th gym badge. There are a lot of lessons to learn from this battle, but I want to focus on 2. The first is to never give up. That was, objectively, really unfortunate RNG. Could I have brought a better team or planned a better strategy that opened me up to less critical hits? Absolutely. But it is undeniable that I got dealt a very unfortunate hand. Sometimes that happens. But I'm actually really proud of how I played in this battle. I found my outs, and I played to them. I didn't give up, and with a little bit of luck, I was able to win, even if it came with a hefty toll. The second lesson is to not get tunnel vision. I used Glysaur setup to beat Maylene in attempt 1, and I tried a little too hard to force a similar strategy in attempt 2, despite not having Poison Heal. Especially in ROM hacks, it's easy to fixate on a single strategy and try to brute force it as a solution to every problem, because it often feels easier to adapt a tried and true strategy than it is to build one from scratch. But sometimes it's better, safer, and smarter to start at 0. It's a tough skill to develop, because we all have our preferred playstyle and Pokemon that we are most comfortable with. This is something that I'm still learning and something that I hope to get better at in the future. Anyways, let's move on. After the massacre at the Veilstone City Gym, it's easy to forget that I'm actually still doing much better than in attempt 1, though the loss of Crobat, Gyarados, and Glysaur is obviously pretty rough. I guess it's a flying type curse for attempt 2. There's a handful of encounters along the way to Pastoria City, but none of them are noteworthy. An Execute also runs away in the Great Marsh, so that doesn't feel particularly great. I clear the rival fight against Famine in Pastoria City Deathless, so it's a pretty quick turnaround to Crasher Wake. Knowing that this gym fight was an absolute mess in attempt 1, I knew that I'd need to plan ahead for this fight. So in attempt 2, I made sure to construct the perfect weapon for dealing with Crasher Wake. Omelette. See, Togekiss is a very good Pokemon. He's bulky, surprisingly strong, and gets access to a ton of incredible support moves. The problem is that Togekiss is a stone evolution, meaning that most of his moves can only be learned by his pre-evolution Togetic. So, once you evolve Togetic into Togekiss, you lose access to all but 4 of those moves. In attempt 1, I decided to keep Moonblast, Encore, Yawn, and Wish on my Togekiss. However, in attempt 2, I decided to keep Moonblast, Encore, Nasty Plot, and Baton Pass. This makes Omelette 2 perfect for setting up a sweep against Crasher Wake. After Broccoli sets up Stealth Rock against Quagsire, and Hot Pocket sets up Sunny Day, I can switch to Eclair to bait an Earthquake. Then I can immediately switch to Omelette on an Earthquake, Encore the Quagsire into continuing to use Earthquake, and then start setting up Nasty Plots. The only question is who should get the Nasty Plot boosts. Omelette can't sweep himself, because he won't be able to outspeed Crasher Wake's Pokemon. So after 3 Nasty Plots, I Baton Pass and bring in Grape, the savior of the Maylene fight. She's been pre-damaged so that when she comes in, her Citrus Berry automatically activates. This triggers her Unburden, thereby doubling her speed and letting her outspeed the entirety of Crasher Wake's team. Stealth Rock breaks Sharpedo's Focus Sash, and the Citrus Berry prevents Grape from being in range to a critical hit Aqua Jet from Floatzel. So, Crasher Wake is completely powerless against the surgical precision of our fearsome Shadow Balling Balloon. Honestly, after Maylene, it feels good to have that one go off without a hitch. Grape is an absolute legend. That's the 5th gym badge. So now I'm at the part of the game where there's a bunch of mini-boss fights in quick succession. The first one is a fight against Dawn, but I've got her pretty much nailed down. Since I switched starters in attempt 2, the Flareon that made me lose Sriracha the Infernape in attempt 1 has been replaced with a far more manageable Vaporeon that gets walled by Egg. Dawn's Torterra is also easily checked by Udon the Tangrowth, and the rest of her Pokemon are handled with some clever switching and PP stalling. Cyrus remains easy, and Drxx and his Entei are dealt with using a safe shell armor setup sweep with Broccoli. The rival fight against Famine in Canalave City is a little sweaty, especially against his Arcanine and his Snorlax, but we managed to make it through in one piece. And then the Riley fight on Iron Island is yet another Broccoli sweep, this time with Intimidate support from Bagel, who has evolved into Salamence. There are a bunch more encounters throughout this, but I'll just touch on a few. In Celestic Town, I find a shiny Magikarp.
Whoa! Cool! Too bad our Gyarados is dead, so we can't use this. You know, I indulged it last time, but screw this. Screw it. I'm not indulging this any longer, chat.
I also find a Relicanth named Tilapia, but he has Rock Head instead of Swift Swim, so he's effectively useless. So is the non-Swift Swim Sniper Horsey I fish up on Route 219, who I named Glue. I do fish up a Lovedis named Peach on Route 220, and at least he has Swift Swim. I also have enough dupes now to head to Route 210 and fish up a Dratini named Fettuccini. Take a wild guess at whether Lovedisc or Dratini will be more useful here. At the Fuego Ironworks, I again catch a Magneton named Batteries, which is a stellar encounter, even though a Brave Nature is pretty bad. And so is a Hasty Nature for the Steelix named Pistachio that I catch on Iron Island. So this gets me to Byron, one of the 2 gym leaders that caused me to lose a Pokemon in Attempt 1. But this time, I double and triple checked my calcs so that there would be no surprises. Byron leads with a Bronzong, so I lead with Pistachio for her debut battle. Bronzong sets up a Reflect, and then Pistachio sets up a Stealth Rock to break Bastiodon's Focus Sash. Then I switch to Tabasco as Bronzong sets up a Stealth Rock. Then I set up a single Bulk Up and a single Calm Mind as Bronzong sets up a Light Screen, and then does some weak damage with a Gyro Ball that a held Leftovers practically fully recovers. Then, like a bully knocking over a sandcastle, Tabasco uses Brick Break to shatter Bronzong's screens that they work so hard to set up. After shrugging off another Gyro Ball, a Flamethrower kills Bronzong. And from here, it's a monkey sweep. All of Byron's Pokemon die to either a Flamethrower or a Brick Break. Funny enough, Aggron doesn't go down to a ×4 super effective Brick Break, but because his special defense is so low, a neutral Flamethrower is enough for the kill. But yeah, with that, Byron is an easy victory, as he should be. And that's the 6th gym badge. There's basically nothing noteworthy between these 6th and 7th gym leaders. Some pretty easy fights against Galactic Commanders, a couple somewhat difficult Ace Trainer fights, and a few encounters that will never leave the PC. So that means it's time for Candace and her Ice types. But the strategy for defeating her is fairly similar to what I did in Attempt 1. Bubblegum has a power weight attached to have his speed so that he underspeeds Abomasnow and we set up Permanent Rain. Jawbreaker switches in on a Wood Hammer on the next turn. Then they outspeed and set up a Magnet Rise to avoid being hit by Abomasnow's Earthquake. This lets us easily set up a Stealth Rock, tank another Wood Hammer, and then kill Abomasnow with an Iron Head. Weavile comes in next, but since I have a living breathing monkey in this attempt, it's easy to switch him in on a Swords Dance, and then kill Weavile with a priority Mach Punch. Then it's Walrein. So I switch to Hot Pocket in Washing Machine form, who tanks a rain-boosted Surf. After a Protect for more Leftovers recovery, a Thunderbolt almost one-shots Walrein. She gets off a Yawn, but that's fine. I stay in and just kill her with another Thunderbolt before Hot Pocket falls asleep. Frostlass is next, so that gives me a safe switch into Egg, who kills Frostlass with a Toxic Stall. We can skip that riveting portion of the battle. 5th is Mamoswine, who is the only real issue on Candace's team. I switch to Blueberry, who dodges a Stone Edge, which is fortunate because a crit there would have been pretty bad. But since she just missed, we can hit her with a Waterfall. It doesn't kill because Mamoswine is holding a Pasho Berry. For whatever reason, she just goes for Avalanche, which does a solid chunk of damage since the power doubles, but it's not enough. And then a priority Aqua Jet finishes off Mamoswine. Last is Glacion, so of course, she too slowly succumbs to the unstoppable strategy that is Toxic Stall with Egg, winning us the 7th gym badge. So just like that, I find myself back to the fight where it all went wrong in Attempt 1, the 12v12 against Mars and Jupiter atop Spear Pillar. I have to admit, I was terrified to be here again. The idea of crushing most of this game, only to again wipe to this fight, was something that I really wasn't sure I would be able to handle. But it's undeniable that I've gotten much better at this game since Attempt 1. I've just been so much more confident in my playstyle this attempt, and I really hope that that's coming through in the videos. So, here are these 6 Pokemon I went with. Jawbreaker the Metagross, Schnitzel the Bastiodon, Batteries the Magnezone, Udon the Tangrowth, Tabasco the Infernape, and Bagel the Salamence. I felt that these 6 Pokemon gave my team a good balance of defensive bulk and offensive pressure. I flowcharted the battle, considered the most dangerous combinations of Mars and Jupiter's Pokemon, and made sure that at the very least I had a moderately useful check into all of their Pokemon in case Famine kicks the bucket early again. I was confident. Well, I was more confident than I was last time. Let's see how it goes. Mars and Jupiter lead with their Crobats, I lead with Jawbreaker, and Famine leads with Staraptor. Jawbreaker has a Lumberry to avoid any status shenanigans from the Crobats. Mars's Crobat starts with a Brave Bird, which does huge damage into Famine's Staraptor. Then Jupiter's Crobat sets up a double team, and then Barry comes in clutch and kills Mars's Crobat with a Brave Bird. He even survives from the recoil, which is pretty surprising. Mars's Crobat going down is optimal because after Jawbreaker sets up an Agility, Electivire comes in, which if you remember from Attempt 1, was an absolute pain in the ass. With Agility set up though, Jawbreaker is now able to outspeed and cleanly one-shot Electivire with a Zen Headbutt. It's not amazing to have to rely on a 90% accurate move, but in this situation, I think I do have to get at least a little lucky, or at least not get unlucky. Crobat of course finishes off Staraptor, so as Mars brings in her Yanmega, Famine brings in Snorlax. Yanmega knows Shadow Ball, so I can't stay in with Jawbreaker. I bring in Schnitzel as Yanmega uses Detect, Crobat uses Double Team, and Snorlax fails a Body Slam into Yanmega. Now I gotta get lucky and hit another inaccurate move. This time, it's Stone Edge. You might be thinking that it's a pretty big risk to be going for Stone Miss here, but the other alternative is Rock Slide, which I would actually need to hit twice on Yanmega to kill her. And the odds of hitting 2 Rock Slides is actually a fair bit lower than hitting 1 of 2 Stone Edges. Fortunately, my Pokemon are on their A game today, and a Stone Edge kills Yanmega after she fails a second Detect. Snorlax also manages to connect with a Zen Headbutt on Crobat through 3 double teams and a Held Bright Powder, so this is going amazingly so far. Mars is down to 3 Pokemon as she brings in Kangaskhan. I protect with Schnitzel on the next turn as Crobat and Kangaskhan double up into him with Hypnosis and Hammer Arm. Snorlax unfortunately misses a Zen Headbutt, but that's reasonable. Nobody's perfect. On the next turn, I switch to Bagel to get an Intimidate off. Crobat then misses a Hypnosis, which feels amazing, and Kangaskhan hits an embarrassingly weak Hammer Arm that also lowers her speed. And then Snorlax manages to connect with the Body Slam, killing the pesky Crobat. Great. I was expecting Gastrodon to come in here and threaten with Ice Beam, but it's Skuntank instead, presumably because she knows Play Rough. So I switch to Batteries, who tanks a Play Rough like it's nothing. Kangaskhan hits Snorlax with a Hammer Arm, but because of the Intimidate, it doesn't do much. Let's just hope that they don't get any critical hits. But for now, Snorlax is safe to fire off a pretty strong Body Slam into Skuntank. Next, I switch back to Bagel for another Intimidate drop, as he tanks a double up from Crunch and Hammer Arm. Snorlax then recovers some HP with Slack Off. Then I go for a Protect on Bagel to let Snorlax do his thing. This blocks a Gunk Shot from Skuntank, and then Snorlax, who now outspeeds Kangaskhan thanks to the speed drops from Hammer Arm, hits Skuntank with a Body Slam, which paralyzes. Absolute king shit from Snorlax. Citrus Berry activates here, but it's fine. Snorlax tanks another Hammer Arm from Kangaskhan as well. I decide to go for a Fly on the next turn, which is a little risky because if Snorlax crits Skuntank, whatever comes in next might be able to kill Bagel when he comes down. But my plays from Attempt 1 weren't aggressive enough, so I think it is worth it here to take a risk. Fortunately, Snorlax doesn't get the crit, so on the next turn, Bagel kills Skuntank and takes a bit of damage from Aftermath. Then, Kinglax hits Kangaskhan with a Body Slam that once again gets the paralysis. Jupiter brings in Tangrowth next. So I switch to Tabasco as Snorlax just barely tanks a Focus Blast and then uses Slack Off. This means that this absolute unit also survives yet another Hammer Arm from Kangaskhan. So, next up, a Flamethrower one-shots Tangrowth. Then, Snorlax uses Slack Off again as he continues to sponge hits from Kangaskhan. Sableye comes in next for Jupiter, and she's actually a little bit scary. I start with a Protect to block a Fake Out from Sableye, and then Snorlax keeps chugging away with Body Slams against Kangaskhan, who refuses to get fully paralyzed, but also fails to get even a single critical hit. So next, I switch to Udon, who shrugs off a Zen Headbutt from Sableye as Snorlax gets his second kill of the battle on Kangaskhan. This brings in Mars's Perugly. She can't do much to Udon, but I decide to protect this turn anyways. Unfortunately, they double up on Snorlax, so the protect was a waste, but at least Snorlax has the foresight to use Slack Off, effectively making it a dead turn. So I switch to Schnitzel, who tanks a Body Slam, which gets the paralysis, and a much harder Shadow Claw. But this at least lets Snorlax hit Purugly hard with a Body Slam, which again gets the paralysis. I shouldn't be surprised at this point. Snorlax is absolutely carrying this fight. So on the next turn, I tank another Shadow Claw from Sableye. Snorlax hits Purugly with a Body Slam, which leaves her with a Sliver and activates a Citrus Berry. Purugly misses a Hypnosis, thankfully, and then Schnitzel gets fully paralyzed. I really can't complain about that. I decide to switch back to Udon, who shrugs off a Shadow Claw as Snorlax manages to get his third kill of the match on Purugly. This means that Mars only has one Pokemon left, her Bronzong. I use Knockoff to deal decent damage into Bronzong, and more importantly, to take away their leftovers. Sableye then hits a soft Shadow Claw, and Bronzong hits Snorlax with a Zen Headbutt. Snorlax uses Slack Off here, which is fine, though I would have preferred Crunch. But what do I know? This is clearly just the Snorlax show, and I happen to be here too. I protect with Udon for some leftovers recovery as Sableye fails a Shadow Claw, and Bronzong sets up some pesky Stealth Rocks. But then Snorlax hits Bronzong with a Crunch, bringing them into the yellow. So Udon hits Sableye with a Giga Drain, and Snorlax tanks 2 Zen Headbutts from Sableye and Bronzong, neither of which cause a flinch, obviously, letting him get kill number 4 as Mars's big dumbbell goes down. And more importantly, that makes this a freaking 2v1. I protect with Udon, letting Snorlax safely heal back to full HP with a Slack Off. Then a combination of Giga Drain from Udon and a Crunch from Snorlax kill the Sableye. Jupiter brings in Bronzong, who is a special attacker, so Udon is the clear target. I make sure to protect to avoid damage from a Psychic, letting Snorlax fire off another Crunch, which gets a freaking defense drop. So I switch to Jawbreaker, who tanks a Psychic, and then Snorlax gets kill number 6. So the very last Pokemon is Jupiter's Gastrodon. I switch to Tangrowth, tank an Earth Power, and Snorlax does some damage with Body Slam. And then, with one final Giga Drain, Udon kills Gastrodon, winning us the 12v12 fight against Mars and Jupiter, and getting me my furthest attempt. It's actually wild how much more helpful Famine was in Attempt 2 than in Attempt 1. Like, I don't even know what to say. Obviously, I got very lucky in this fight. But even if Snorlax hadn't decided to roleplay as the Old Testament god, Barry had 4 other Pokemon waiting in the back, and my team was still really strong. After those first few turns, I felt very in control. What a ride. But now there's like the whole rest of this game that is completely uncharted territory for me, including some pretty terrifying fights, starting with the final fight against Cyrus in the Distortion world. This is a pretty unique challenge because you have to first fight Cyrus in a double battle where he has a level 70 Dialga and Palkia. If you manage to beat those, he then immediately challenges you with his full team of 6. Fortunately, I have a pretty good plan for this. Remember when I asked you to guess whether Dratini or Luvdisc would get more use? Well, that was a misdirect. Luvdisc got some pretty significant buffs in this game and is now a phenomenal late-game Pokemon. For example, when paired with Schnitzel, who baits Earth Power or Aura Spheres from both Palkia and Dialga, Peach is able to outspeed and two-shot the God of Space with Expert Belt Moonblasts. I just need to protect with Schnitzel on the first turn, and then switch to Omelette on the second turn. Then, Omelette just needs to Encore Dialga into Aura Sphere as my monstrous little God Slayer continues to fire away with Moonblasts. After encoring Dialga, I switch Omelette into Tabasco, who is holding a Focus Sash so that he'll survive even a critical hit Aura Sphere from Dialga. Though Dialga clearly decides that Peach is the more threatening of my 2 Pokemon and fires off an attack into him. So, with one more Moonblast from Peach, and a final assist via Close Combat from Tabasco, the God of Time falls, winning us part 1 of this fight. So now it's time to head straight into the single battle portion of the Cyrus fight. My Pokemon are fully healed, so that's nice. Schnitzel comes in on Cyrus's Crobat. Crobat just repeatedly goes for Choice Band Brave Birds, which lets Schnitzel set up a Stealth Rock and then kill Crobat with Stone Edge. Schnitzel seems to have exerted all his energy in the 12v12 against Mars and Jupiter though, because he manages to miss 3 Stone Edges before taking out Crobat. But with Protect and Leftovers recovery, this is still relatively safe. A few back-to-back crits would be bad, but it doesn't happen. This brings in Gyarados, who is pretty scary with Dragon Dance. But I switch to Washing Machine Hot Pocket, who tanks an Aqua Tail. Then, Gyarados goes for a Dragon Dance, and we just kill him with a Thunderbolt. Greedy fish. Honchkrow is next, and is always an issue with Super Luck and high crit moves. unless you can just outspeed and kill him with a Thunderbolt as well. Neat. Fourth is Weavile, so I switched to Tabasco, who has killed every single Weavile I've come across in this playthrough. Cyrus gets greedy again, and Weavile goes for Swords Dance, so Tabasco easily kills him with a priority Mach Punch while keeping his Focus Sash intact. Magnezone comes out next, and I was planning on switching to Egg, but because we still have our Focus Sash intact, Tabasco literally cannot die on this next turn, so I just fire off a Close Combat, which crits and kills Magnezone in one shot. So, last is Houndoom, but even with the Intimidate, a Close Combat will still kill, and again Tabasco cannot die. So I stay in, tank a Sludge Bomb, and then Houndoom goes down, getting us a surprisingly easy victory against Cyrus. After monkeying all over Cyrus's face, it's now time to save the world by confronting Giratina. But Peach has already killed 2 gods, so he decides to show mercy against the god of the underworld, and we just run from the battle. But do not forget this act of compassion, Giratina. The only reason that you live is because Peach allowed it to happen. When decades from now, you look back at your life, and this is all just a distant memory, remember that all of it was possible because Peach the God Killer spared your life. Every time you hug your children, every time your grandchild laughs, every time you wake up and turn to see your partner sleeping peacefully beside you, you will remember what Peach did for you on this day. And from here on out, every day of your life, you will be thankful, you will be kind, you will live like it is your last day. Because Giratina, it could be. Peach is always watching. With the world saved, it's time to finish up the last few major fights of the game before it's time to take on the Elite Four. You'd think that at this point I wouldn't be getting any more notable encounters, but you'd be wrong, because in Sunyshore City I catch a Pelipper with Drizzle named Soup. Pelipper is a much better rain setter than Politoed, as you'll soon see. I also catch a Farfetch named Shallot on Route 222, who will make a brief appearance before it's all said and done. But first is the fight against the final gym leader, Volkner. Fortunately, or unfortunately if you're trying to see me wipe, this is pretty easy. It's just a sweep with Broccoli, who can very easily set up on the Jolteon after he's been captivated by Egg. A few Swords Dances and a few Rock Polishes are all it takes to sweep through Volkner's team with Earthquake and Return. Return is used for his 2 Rotoms with Levitate, Earthquake is used for everything else. To be honest, this fight was never going to be difficult with the sheer number of powerful ground types that I have access to. But a Broccoli sweep is always pretty fun to pull off. That's the 8th and final gym badge obtained. So, all that's left to do is make our way through Victory Road. The Renegade Platinum Victory Road is pretty tough and very, very long. There are a bunch of trainers to fight, all of which have diverse teams, and there's even a whole extra part that has you fight against Marley from Vanilla Platinum's postgame, and then join forces with her to fight against even more random trainers. All of this goes pretty well though. That is, until I get to the final fight against Dawn. At this point, there are literally 3 mandatory fights left before the Elite Four. This fight against Dawn, a fight against a random Dragon Tamer near the top of Victory Road, and then the final fight against Famine at the Pokemon League. And I don't know if it was due to rushing to get to the end, or if it was some sort of subconscious self-sabotage, but against Dawn, this happens.
Okay. Don't crit. It's a crit. Oh my god, what? What?
So, after coming in so clutch for so many fights, our beautiful baby boy Schnitzel falls. I have no one to blame but myself. Schnitzel's blood is on my hands. I risked him for basically no reason. It was always better to deal with Dawn's Clefable by walling him with Egg, but I wanted to do it fast, I wanted to get to the Elite Four, I wanted glory, and I wanted to be done with these mini-boss fights. And that led to recklessness that got Schnitzel killed. Even worse, I was planning on bringing Schnitzel to the Elite Four. He was going to be one of the 6 Pokemon that would hopefully take us to the end. But I robbed him of that opportunity, and for that I will be eternally remorseful. Rest well, Schnitzel, you will be remembered as the king you are. Now, this fight with Dawn actually ends up being an absolute nightmare and almost goes from bad to worse. Without Schnitzel, I have to make some pretty risky plays against her Mama Swine, and for her final Pokemon Vaporeon, I actually have to completely stall her out of PP because she has Rest and Sleep Talk to prevent an easy Toxic stall with Blissey. The entire fight takes 35 minutes. Just the fight against Vaporeon alone took 20 minutes. It was horrible, and it was a direct result of easily some of the worst prep that I've done for a major battle in a long time, which doesn't exactly bode well for the Elite Four, but maybe I'm just getting it out of my system early. So the last fight before the Elite Four is against Famine. He was absolutely amazing in our fight against Mars and Jupiter, and I'll be forever grateful for that, but now it's time to put him where he belongs, 6 feet under. He leads with Staraptor, and I lead with Bagel to get off and Intimidate. I then immediately switch to Pistachio, who's able to shrug off -1 Brave Birds pretty well, though obviously Schnitzel would do it better. With Leftovers recovery and protecting every other turn, Pistachio is able to set up Stealth Rocks and then take out Staraptor with a few Rock Climbs, which is a Rock-type move in this game by the way. Once Staraptor goes down, Famine brings in Arcanine, which is usually his scariest Pokemon. I protect to scout out a move and gain some HP back with Leftovers. Then I switch to Bagel, who gets off an Intimidate and tanks a Flare Blitz. Thankfully there's no burn there, so Bagel is able to outspeed and kill the Arcanine with an Earthquake. That brings in Empoleon third. So I switch to Egg as he misses a Blizzard, which is pretty nice. Then Egg Seismic tosses Empoleon like a salad as she stays healthy with Soft Boiled. I make sure to paralyze Empoleon with Thunder Wave as well to make multiple crits in a row a little less likely and give Egg the speed advantage. Once the Empoleon goes down, Heracross comes in fourth. So I switch to Shallot on a close combat. He's fighting flying type in this game, so he resists close combat. He's also holding a Focus Sash, so even a crit wouldn't kill here. Which means that he's able to easily outspeed and kill the Heracross on the next turn with an Aerial Ace. That brings in Breloom 5th, so of course we just outspeed and kill him with an Aerial Ace as well. Good job, Shallot. Way to show up late to the party, get 2 kills, and then bounce. Last for Barry is our dear friend King Snorlax, who could be scary, but he only knows Body Slam and Earthquake as attacking moves, meaning that Hot Pocket in their regular ghostly form is completely immune to Snorlax's attacks. It takes a really long time because Snorlax has a ton of special bulk and starts spamming Slack Off, but eventually Hot Pocket is able to do what all 12 of Mars and Jupiter's Pokemon couldn't. Take down the mighty beast that is Famine Snorlax and win us the battle. And with that, we've gotten to the Elite Four of Renegade Platinum. If you've never played Renegade Platinum before, there is one very noteworthy difference about this Elite Four when compared to the regular games. In Renegade Platinum, each Elite Four member and the champion Cynthia have 4 different potential teams, and there is no way to know which of those 4 teams you'll be facing until the battle starts. This means that when preparing for this challenge, you need to plan for the possibility of fighting every single one of their 4 teams. Needless to say, that makes things very difficult, since the number of Pokemon that your team of 6 has to be able to beat increases by almost 4-fold. There are some overlaps between each of the 4 teams though. For example, each member will always have the same ace Pokemon. It wouldn't be Platinum without fighting Cynthia's Garchomp. But even the aces can have different movesets across the different teams. So this is certainly one of the most intense team building that I've ever had to do. And losing Schnitzel so close to the end threw a pretty big wrench into the whole operation, since, like an idiot, I started making my Elite Four plans before I had actually finished Victory Road. But, ultimately, I ended up finding a pretty solid substitute for Schnitzel. So, here are the final 6 Pokemon that will take me to the end of the run, or die trying. First is Batteries the Magnezone. They were the substitute for Schnitzel, who was going to serve as our primary Wall and Steel type. Batteries isn't quite as bulky as Schnitzel, but they hit much harder, and most importantly, they still bait ground and fighting type moves to give me safe switches into my flying types. Second is Bagel the Salamence, who provides Intimidate support, and is frankly just one of the best Pokemon in the game. Very strong, quite fast, pretty bulky, and even has the potential to set up a few Dragon Dance sweeps against certain team compositions. Third is Egg the Blissey. If you've been paying attention at all, you'll know what she does. She's a special wall that can deal damage with Seismic Toss, Toxic, or both. Fourth is Broccoli the Torterra, the most veteran of the final 6. Her Shell Armor ability makes switching in much safer, she'll be very useful in dealing with Bertha's slow ground types, and as you might expect, if everything goes well, she should be able to pull off a setup sweep. Fifth is the newest addition to the team, Soup the Pelipper. With Drizzle, she'll be able to override the weather that Bertha and Flint like to set up. Her water flying type has great synergy with Batteries and Broccoli, and she's defensive enough that she can help deal with some of Aeron's physical bug types if the going gets tough. And last but certainly not least, is the god killer himself, Peach. With rain support from Soup, Peach achieves unimaginable levels of speed. Even without the rain, he's one of the few Pokemon that can outspeed Cynthia's Garchomp. And with his new fairy typing, he completes the Fantasy Dragon Steel Fairy Core along with Batteries and Bagel. So he's the perfect final member of the team. Before taking on this final challenge, I tweeted out my final team, and people were unkind to Peach. They mocked Peach. They doubted his inclusion. But in due time, all of you watching will know Peach's true power. So, Batteries, Bagel, Egg, Broccoli, Soup, and Peach. Let's see if these 6 ingredients are the right recipe for beating Renegade Platinum. As I enter Aeron's chamber, my palms are sweating and I'm nervous. There's never been so much on the line. Aeron's teams are tough. I have better matchups into some of them than others, but we'll just have to see what hand it is that fate dealt me. As Aeron sends out his first Pokemon, my heart drops. It's Venomoth, and team number 2, easily our worst matchup. Venomoth has Tinted Lens, so Batteries, our lead, isn't safe here. I switch to Egg, and right away you can see that we have a problem as Venomoth goes for Double Team. Now fortunately, Egg really won't take too much damage from Venomoth, so as long as we don't perpetually miss Seismic Tosses, this should be okay. Unfortunately, after setting up a Stealth Rock and landing one Seismic Toss, Aeron switches out into his Pinsir, which is not at all according to plan. I did not want Pinsir coming out here against Egg. The idea was to stall Venomoth out of Bug Buzzes and then kill him with Batteries so that Pinsir would come in against Batteries and be baited into using Earthquake, which would give me a safe switch into Bagel. But now that he's out against Egg, he's going to go for a random move, because Close Combat, Mega Horn, Earthquake, and Stone Edge will all kill Egg. This makes switching into Bagel a lot riskier because a crit from Stone Edge will just kill. I should have anticipated that there was a chance Aeron would switch after Seismic Toss, but at this point, I have no choice but to risk Bagel. Thankfully though, Bagel comes in on a Mega Horn, which does a huge chunk of damage, though Protect and Leftovers gives us a lot more HP to deal with. So now, Bagel easily kills Pinsir from this range with Fly or Flamethrower. The issue is that when we kill Pinsir, Aeron will bring in Armaldo, which has a Choice Band and threatens with Stone Edge, which is really scary. So instead, I switch back and forth between Batteries and Bagel, and you can really see the synergy here. Batteries resist Stone Edge from Pinsir, and Bagel is immune to Earthquake. This lets me easily stall out Pinsir's 5 Stone Edge PP and get Bagel back to almost full HP. So once he's out of Stone Edges, it's safe to set up a few Dragon Dances with Bagel, as long as I make sure to stay out of range of a Mega Horn crit. I actually wasn't planning on doing a Dragon Dance sweep here, but the opportunity presented itself, so it just makes sense to go for the safest play. After 2 Dragon Dances, a Fly, which has 100 base power and 100% accuracy in this game, kills Pinsir. At +2 attack, along with the Stealth Rock chip, another Fly is enough to kill the Armaldo that comes in next. Third is Drapion, which is what that second Dragon Dance was for, because he too now goes down to a Stab Fly, despite not being a bug type. Fourth is Venomoth, and because he could set up a double team when Bagel goes up in the air, I go for Flamethrower instead, which is more than enough to kill the Venomoth after Stealth Rock chip and the damage from Egg's Seismic Toss. Fifth is Scyther, who takes 50% from Stealth Rocks when he comes in, so to save time, I just kill him with Flamethrower instead of Fly. And then last is Fortress, the living fire hazard, who obviously goes down to a single Flamethrower, winning us the first fight of the Elite Four in decisive fashion. Thank goodness I don't know my East from my West. Next up is Bertha. She has 2 potential leads that each indicate one of 2 teams. I'm hoping to see Hippowdon come in because those teams are much easier, but sadly it's Tyranitar. Her Tyranitars both have Choice Scarf, so it's never safe to stay in with Peach. I protect once to see what Tyranitar has locked herself into, and it's Thunder Punch, meaning that we're dealing with Team 3. Then I switch to Broccoli, who is obviously immune to the Thunder Punch. I assume that Tyranitar will switch out here, but she actually doesn't, meaning that it would have been completely safe to set up a sweep here, but I don't have the moves to do that. And even if I knew that she wouldn't switch, I don't think I could have afforded to strap Broccoli with setup moves while still preparing for the other 3 teams. Regardless, 2 Seed Bombs take care of Tyranitar, and then Bertha brings in Swine. So I switch to Batteries on an Icicle Crash, which unfortunately crits, but whatever. From here, I just start stalling out Swine of her various PP. Batteries baits Earthquake, so it's very easy to switch to Soup to set up Rain, and then later to switch to Bagel and get off Intimidates. And going back to batteries is safe since they both bait either Stone Edge or Icicle Crash, though Mama Swine does get a few critical hits that make things a little tighter than they should be. We can skip most of this, but eventually Mama Swine runs out of Stone Edge and Earthquake PP, so it becomes super safe to switch to Peach on an Icicle Crash, which wouldn't kill even if it crit through the Intimidate attack drops. But now we get to see Peach unleash just a fraction of his power. Despite Mama Swine holding a Pasho Berry, a Choice Specs rain-boosted Surf from Peach cleanly knocks out the Feral Hog, adding another soul to Peach's kill count. This brings in Swampert, who is the only one of Bertha's remaining Pokemon that Peach can't one-shot. So I switch out to Bagel on an Earthquake. Do you feel the synergy? You feel it? This lets Bagel set up some Dragon Dances. In the rain, Aquatail is doing decent damage though, so after a few turns, it becomes pretty clear that Bagel won't be able to set up enough Dragon Dances to kill Bertha's Pokemon in the back without risking a critical hit. So it looks like we won't be doing another Dragon Dance sweep here. Bagel just kills Swampert with a Fly, and then Rhyperior comes in. A Protect from Bagel reveals that she's locked herself into Choice Band Stone Edge. So I switch to Soup, which you might think is weird and dumb, but she has a Focus Sash, so she hangs on with 1 HP. This lets her kill the Rhyperior with a rain-boosted Surf on the next turn. Dugtrio is 5th and also has a Choice Band, so I Protect to see which move she goes for. Bertha really likes using Stone Edge, I guess. That gives me a pretty safe switch into Broccoli. Then Dugtrio actually just misses a Stone Edge, so Broccoli takes her out with a Seed Bomb. Last is Claydol, and here's where Shell Armor once again is super nice. Because I'm not at risk to a crit, I can just stay in and hit Claydol with a few Seed Bombs. They set up a Reflect on the first turn, but then on the second turn, after tanking a Psychic, Broccoli gets a critical hit to knock out Claydol and defeat the second Elite Four member. Third is Flint, who has 4 very different potential teams, ranging from one team that is pure fire types, to another team more in line with his Diamond and Pearl team that has Lopunny, Drifblim, and Steelix on it. I really don't want to deal with Lopunny. That Pokemon is unironically terrifying in these games. Flint leads with Ninetales, meaning that he has either Team 1 or Team 3. Team 1 is stupid easy. Team 3 has Lopunny, though it isn't as hard as the other Lopunny team. So this is okay, but it'd be nice to know which team this is ASAP. Leading with Soup overrides Flint's Sun, which is great. So after that, it's a switch to Egg, who tries to kill his Ninetales without taking too much damage. If this is the Lopunny team, there will again be an issue here once Ninetales goes down, because Egg will bait a random move from the Lopunny, making switching a little scary. But right before Ninetales goes down to toxic damage, she confuses Egg with a Confuse Ray, revealing that this is indeed Team 1, aka Flint's Pure Fire team. Why is this team so easy? Well, because I can switch to Peach as his Infernape goes for close combat. And then, in the rain, Peach easily outspeeds and eviscerates the rest of Flint's team. All 5 of his remaining Pokemon drown to Peach's ungodly oceanic powers. Poseidon couldn't even dream of this type of power. Magmortar is Flint's last Pokemon to meet his watery demise, and with that, the battle is won, and Peach's Elite Four kill count skyrockets to 6. Next up is Lucian, but fun fact, all 4 of his Pokemon lead with a male special attacker, meaning that Egg can captivate any of these 4 losers down to -6 special attack, and then Broccoli can safely set up for a good old-fashioned Swords Dance Rock Polish sweep. I did have to keep Crunch on Broccoli for the entirety of the Elite Four so that she could deal with Lucian's potential Bronzong, which was pretty annoying. Fortunately, both Swords Dance and Rock Polish are TMs, which as a reminder are unlimited in this game. The only very small wrinkle in this plan is that one of Lucian's teams leads with an Alakazam that has a Focus Sash and Counter. So had Lucian gone with that team, I would have actually had to break the Focus Sash with Egg. And in order to prevent Alakazam from switching out like Venomoth did in the fight against Aeron, I did have to teach Egg Shadow Ball, meaning that she no longer has access to Seismic Toss for the fight against Cynthia. But hopefully that shouldn't be too much of an issue. So anyways, that's Lucian and the Elite Four defeated. So all that's left is Cynthia, her terrifying Garchomp, and 5 other Pokemon that are all different levels of scary. This is the final battle of the run, meaning that if we have to sack a Pokemon to ensure victory, then that's what I'll do. Let's finish this. Right away, Cynthia's lead will reveal what team she has. Her Togekiss comes out, meaning that we're up against team number 3. Togekiss, Milotic, Spiritomb, Lucario, Glaceon, and Garchomp. Not the easiest, but certainly not the hardest. Peach was a lead in case we got Team 1, but since we didn't, I immediately switched to Egg as Togekiss sets up a Tailwind. You'll notice that 4 of Cynthia's 6 Pokemon are special attackers, so Egg is pretty fantastic here. There's no need to sit through a Toxic Stall against Togekiss, you've seen this enough times. The good news is that by the time Togekiss falls, Cynthia has used up a full restore and both the Reflect and the Light Screen that her Togekiss set up have expired. This brings in Lucario next. I go for a Protect, hoping that Lucario will go for High Jump Kick, but it's just Meteor Mash. The High Jump Kick recoil from crashing into Protect would have actually just killed Lucario, which would have been pretty hilarious. But now it's time for a risky switch to Bagel. If Lucario crits a Meteor Mash, he'll die. It wouldn't be game over, but it would definitely make things harder. So I bring in Bagel, Lucario goes for Meteor Mash, but he does not get the crit. This lets Bagel, who has a Choice Scarf, outspeed and kill Lucario with an Earthquake. That's 2 down, 4 to go. Milotic comes in next, threatening with Ice Beam, so it's a pretty safe switch into Egg. But as I switch, I open my big dumb stupid mouth and say this.
But that's super chill, because now we can just freely switch back to Blissey here. That's super chill. Unless it, like, freezes and we never unfreeze.
So, Egg gets frozen. The funny thing is that it does not matter at all. Milotic just does no damage whatsoever. And for some reason, she also just clicks Protect every other turn. So even though Egg stays frozen for 8 whole turns, Milotic does very little besides stall out her own PP. If this doesn't show you how unbelievably busted Blissey is, I don't know what to tell you. As a reminder, this is my first ROM hack. Maybe in the future I'll ban Blissey, but I can't deny that this ROM hack is the most fun I've ever had playing Pokemon, which is ultimately the goal of any playthrough. To have fun. Anyways, I can't imagine that Cynthia or her Milotic are having much fun here, as they are powerless to being slowly consumed by whatever toxic substance Egg excretes from her body. Maybe Cynthia's accepted her fate or something, because this Milotic does have recovery, but she just refuses to use it, which is totally fine by me. So once the big fish goes down, Glacion comes out 4th. She has choice specs, so even against Egg, Blizzard does just a crap load of damage. Fortunately, Blizzard only has 5 PP, so even if Cynthia manages to get another freeze or a bunch of crits or something, Glacion will very quickly have to start using Struggle. Egg also does manage to get off a Toxic, but I actually don't want Egg out when Cynthia's remaining 2 Pokemon come out. So after Glacion has used 3 Blizzards, I switch to Batteries, who actually dodges one. A crit would have killed them, but that was a necessary risk, because now I can protect Batteries on Glacion's 5th and final Blizzard. Then I can switch to Peach, who easily shrugs off a Struggle. The recoil and the poison damage finish off Glacion, so I'm not sure who gets that kill. I guess it was like a team effort. This brings in Spiritomb, who is absolutely no match for a Choice Specs boosted Moonblast from Peach, which kills her in one shot. So all that's left is Cynthia's fearsome Garchomp. She's holding a Yache Berry, so even if Peach could click Ice Beam, it wouldn't kill. Peach outspeeds, but Garchomp is bulky enough that even the God Killer can't one-shot her with a Moonblast. However, Peach can make the ultimate sacrifice. He can fire off a Moonblast and go down in a blaze of glory, letting Bagel come in and finish the job. And by Arceus, that's what he does. He takes one for the team. He fires off a Moonblast, which brings Garchomp into the red, and with an Earthquake, he leaves this world and joins all the souls that he's damned. For centuries, they will tell his story. The story of a little fish that defied expectations and proved the naysayers wrong. He slayed omnipotent gods, fiery monsters, and supernatural demons. He fought to the bloody end to save his family and his people. In the annals of history, Peach the Love Disc will take his rightful place among mankind's greatest heroes. Thank you, Peach. May your eternal rest finally bring you peace. With that legendary sacrifice, Bagel comes in to avenge his dear friend. Cynthia heals, but it doesn't matter, because with one final critical hit Dragon Claw, Garchomp goes down, winning us the battle, and my first ever ROM hack. Well, that's the end of the challenge, and the end to a 2-part video series that I can confidently say is the most work I've ever put into one of these challenges. I could probably reflect on this playthrough for over an hour, but I think I'll just keep it simple and reiterate that this is the most fun I've had playing Pokemon in a long time. And all I can do now is thank you all for continuing to watch these silly little videos. Or in this case, not so little. I spent a long time trying to figure out how best to tell the story of this run and how many videos to do it in while still maintaining my narrative style and personality. If you liked how I broke this into 2 videos, if you wanted even more videos detailing the stuff I skipped, if you wanted just one short video, or whatever, let me know in the comments. As I continue to dive into more ROM hacks, and believe me, there will be more ROM hacks, I'll continue to refine how to best tell these stories, so any feedback is always appreciated. And I'd be remiss to end this video without giving one last shout out to Drayano for making an incredible ROM hack. Go support him on Twitter if you haven't already. Genuinely one of the nicest people in this community that I've had the pleasure of interacting with. Oh, and one final shout out to Drxx and Moxi, 2 content creators who were so generous with their time and knowledge throughout this playthrough. They do all sorts of hardcore Nuzlocks and really are the best of the best, both as creators and as people. I've linked them both down in the description below. You won't regret checking them out. Anyways, once again, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching even a fraction of this series, please like the video and subscribe. Or don't. I don't know. But I do know that you should follow me on Twitter and Twitch to keep up with streams of my future challenges. You should also subscribe to my highlights channel to get highlights of the challenge I'm currently streaming before it's cut down to a video on the main channel. And be sure to join the Flag on HG community Discord where you can discuss Nuzlocking and contribute to future challenges. The links are in the description below. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always play around the critical hit.